Superhero games have always been popular no matter which generation we are talking about. We have seen great arcade titles like Captain America and the Avengers, which allowed the player to assume the roles of either Iron Man, Vision, Hawkeye, and Cap himself. Solid variety, action, visuals, and great music all helped to create a timeless game. When it came to Marvel, Spider-Man and the X-Men were arguably the most popular during this time, from the 90s cartoons and later the live-action films. While beloved by many, characters like Iron Man were not in the mainstream yet. Iron Man has received a handful of solo games, from big console releases to smaller titles. On the Game Boy Advance, he received one of his best entries. The Invincible Iron Man is heavily inspired by Capcom action platformers, and delivers an awesome game that deserves more attention. The Invincible Iron Man is a really good action platformer. The minute-to-minute action is solid as you blast everything that comes at you. The handful of boss fights that bookend some of the levels are pretty good as well, as they have their fun ins and outs to figure out. The presentation from the captivating visuals and consistently enjoyable soundtrack elevate the experience to provide a game that does not feel like a cheap cash-in on the property, but rather something that was made with care, love, and talent. While the Invincible Iron Man is a short experience, it most certainly is sweet the whole way through. Like a good action platformer, the controls are easy to pick up and use. As Iron Man, you have a jump, boost jump for getting to higher places, your repulsor rays which can fire two variations of a charge shot, a useful dodge that helps you in traversal by giving you a boost in either the left or right direction, and the dash can double as a means to push back enemies, and in some fights even damaging them. The minute-to-minute action is really good and often relentless with all of the enemies coming at you. Your shots have some satisfying sound effects along with decent impact on all of the enemies either exploding or being pushed back. While in combat, you need to continually consider your energy meter. This is used for all of your attacks. If you spam the attack button, you can fire off several weaker shots. This means that you can shoot more often, but it uses less energy, whereas the charge shots take up a lot of energy but usually make short work of most enemies in one hit. If you're running low on energy, then your fire rate will significantly decrease, and it appears to take longer to charge your shots. This never really becomes an issue, but rather another element to keep in mind while fighting everyone. It also means that you might start out playing the game like Mega Man, where you are continually shooting, but as you proceed, you will become more calculated with your shots. The power meter really has you appreciating when you're at full power, as you can fire off more charge shots in quick succession. This energy system adds a power dynamic that allows the player to adjust their tactics when they are low on energy and more vulnerable, and feel more powerful at full power. Outside of Iron Man's core moves and abilities are some pickups that you can grab. One is a star that honestly works similar to the one found in the Mario games. You are invulnerable for a period of time, and it is useful for quickly getting through tough sections. The other are these blue orbs, and these charge your super moves. If you get one, then you can launch your Uni Beam, which is a strong blast that can hit many foes. If you collect 2 orbs, then your special will be an EMP blast that hits more people. While the game is largely a linear experience, there are a few hidden areas, and as such promotes some light exploration. Going off in another direction usually nets you with extra health, energy, and in some cases more lives. The exploration isn't anything extravagant, but it does better the gameplay and rewards you for looking. There's 4 bosses in Iron Man. The first one is against Tony's cousin. This is like fighting an armored super soldier, and you mostly need to try and avoid his attacks while taking him out. The second boss is Blizzard, but the real meat of his fight is in the second encounter. The first time you fight him is at the end of the forest level. levels, and after a few hits he runs away. So at the end of the snow areas is where his true fight is. He surrounds himself with an ice shield, and you can take it down by either hitting him with a charge blast or dodging through it. The best option is to dash through it and then hit him with a charge blast. After he takes some hits, he will run away, and you need to hit his defenses to stop him from healing himself. Do this a few times and he is a goner. The final boss is Crimson Dynamo. He is another interesting encounter in that your normal blast will not work against him. You need to use a special to stun him, and then hit him with a dash to do damage. Overall, I enjoyed the bosses, especially Blizzard and Crimson, as they required some light experimentation to figure them out. The normal enemies come in a few different forms, from gunners, grenadiers, heavy hitters, stationary enemies, suicide ones, and each set of levels introduces new ones to keep the entire game interesting. Iron Man has pretty good variety. Iron Man hits a nice balance at maintaining a rising level of challenge. For the most part, the game doesn't feel like it has many difficulty spikes. The first level is pretty easy and the challenge grows from there. What I did enjoy is that due to how the difficulty is constructed, there can be some nail-biting parts where you are low on health and are conservatively playing through the levels, and it's very satisfying in those moments to find a checkpoint. Overall, the Invincible Iron Man is a great GBA game, but I do have a few flaws and recommendations for a sequel. My biggest issue with the game is how there are no checkpoints placed right before the first boss fight. Blizzard and Crimson have their own levels, so there's no problem there. But if you die on the first boss, you need to go through about half the level to get back to him. I think an additional checkpoint before this fight would have been a nice addition. The other thing is that Iron Man is a very short game. It will only take about 2 hours or less to complete it. Now, the entire experience is a great one, but I do think that there is a lot of opportunity to increase the length of this game. For one, there is a lack of unlockables. It would have been cool to unlock new suits for Tony to wear. I do think it would have been fun to have some one-off levels, like a few flying stages that might work like an old school shoot 'em up, or a level where you get to use the Hulkbuster. As a general idea I want to throw out there, I think someone should make an Iron Man game that is a Metroidvania. The character is perfect for this game type. Iron Man has many different suits and weapons that he could unlock through his journey. Keep the items and actions specific to the character, and use the outline made popular by the Metroid series and Castlevania. Either way, I really enjoyed this game, and it was a nice surprise for the GBA. Before we move to the conclusion, I want to highlight the soundtrack. Iron Man has some great tracks that feed into the relentless action and enhances the entire experience. Here are a few tracks from the game. The Invincible Iron Man is an underrated superhero game that deserves more attention. It nails the minute-to-minute action with satisfying combat and enjoyable platforming. It is very pick up and play, and the energy system means you need to be a bit more tactical as you get into the later levels. While there are only a few, the boss fights are generally really fun and memorable. The presentation delivers high-level visuals for the GBA, with a really good soundtrack. While Iron Man is a very short game, the entire game feels like a polished piece of entertainment that you wish was longer because of how good it is. It is a shame that these developers never got a chance to make a sequel, as they provided a great base for them to go off of for another one. If you're a fan of the character or enjoy side-scrolling action platformers, then I highly recommend it. If you're interested in being notified of new videos, please hit the subscribe button and bell. And if you would like to support the channel and get early access to content, please check out my Patreon. All of the links will be at the end of this video and within the description. And thank you very much for watching.